Okay, now as I told you, I grew between Isiolo and Meru. So when I was in Meru, one of the things I used to like is like rabbit houses. I used to build my own. Then I used to do them really good. Even now, my neighbors wanted me to do for them.
Yeah.
So at some point, I started charging my friends to do this, to build for them rabbit houses. So I did that for a while. Of course, I kept some chicken back in the village. And
how old were you then?
Then I was maybe like 10. Actually, at 14,
Yeah.
I used to have many chickens.
Oh,
I used to supply hotels in town.
At 14?
Yes.
In Isiolo?
Yeah. No, that was in Meru then, yes. And Isiolo, I used to supply Isiolo too. You know, most of my family is in Isiolo. Actually, I have more family in Isiolo than
in
Meru.
Interesting.
Yes.
And you'd mentioned earlier on that your grandfather was such an influence because in the construction business and you spent time with him. What are some of the lessons that you learned from your grandfather? Because I believe as a kid, you were able to observe things and implement them. And I think that's maybe what led you to starting off business very early. What are some of the intricacies about business that you learned from your grandfather that you started implementing quite early?
Okay, of course, my grandfather and my father, they had the influence on me since they're entrepreneurs. Like, actually, my father is credited among the people who started the town Isiolo. They were the first people to build in Isiolo and grow it to a town. In fact, they
That was in the 90s or 80s?
That in the 70s.
70s?
70s.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, before me. So when I came, they were still running business in the 80s, in the 90s. He passed on in the 2000s. But he was a good entrepreneur with zero education. You know, my grandfather went to school. The moment he learned how to count hex,
yes,
he was done with education. He went to
now you can count money.
Yes. So of course he was employed at some point as a it's called houseboy in Mombasa for a long time. Then finally relocated to Isiolo and started doing business. He was since he has known outside, he used to take like goats and cows from the handlers and go take to the market. So he grew with time. He used to tell me a lot of his stories. But one thing I learned from my grandfather is something called discipline. Discipline is very, very important. I mean, discipline on how you carry yourself every day, how you dress up, how you show up is very important. Keeping your word. You say this time you're doing this, it's very important. And giving back. So my grandfather was big in giving back, and I learned that from him. And of course, he involved me at a very young age to know what he does. And that's the same thing I do to my children right now. I go to work with them so that they can learn.
Interesting. So you started business very early. I think at 14 you told me you already gotten a big bunch of chicken that you're actually now even trying to sell. How are you balancing education and just being a child and being a businessman? Because that's very interesting. Because I think at 14 all you're thinking about is just play and just have fun. But here you are, you're transacting.
No, but you see now, I was brought up in a business family. And as I told you, I was very, very ambitious.
Yes.
Even up to today, I'm still very ambitious. I hope so. I hope that spark never gets away.
That spark is a spark that your ambition should never be killed.
Exactly. Yes. So I could juggle, and I'm one of the kind of a person who doesn't like to get bored. At any time, I have to be doing something. I have to be doing something. I can't just sit somewhere and say I'm relaxing. Sometimes even when I go on vacation and holidays, I get bored. And now I'm there the whole day, go eat lunch, go eat dinner. That's not life for me.
Yeah.
I like engaging, getting to learn things, getting to do things, getting to engage people so that I can learn different kind of people, small, big, rich, poor. Sometimes even mad people. I sit even with mad people and listen to them.
They say all of us have a level of insanity.
You have something to learn from anybody.
Everybody.
That's why it's always listen to somebody. If somebody calls you, if you have time, listen to them. Since listening is an act of kindness, and you get to learn way more.
Interesting. So